Hello and welcome to another introduction video for our Hardy Readalong, and welcome to Far From the Madding Crowd. It turns out I only actually have 2 copies of Far From the Madding Crowd, which is quite funny because it is a Hardy that I really love. I seem to have more copies of books that I like less. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because, I don't know, the really popular ones, which do tend to be the ones that I love the most, maybe they just get read so much they get thrown away, those copies. Then they're not available second hand. It's so tragic. So these are the 2 copies that I have. I think this was actually given to me as a work leave-in present quite a few years ago. And this is the Penguin kind of cloth bound Far From the Madding Crowd. I also have this, which is incredibly tatty. The front cover is coming off, and I think I bought this new, and this is like incredibly well read because I've read it quite a few times. I should start with a quick explainer because that's what I try and do in these introduction videos, because I know some people find these videos by just searching on YouTube, and I feel like this is going to be one that people definitely stumble upon because Far From the Madding Crowd is a very popular Thomas Hardy. So very quick explainer, if you have found your way here and you don't know what's going on, we are doing a read-along of all of Thomas Hardy's novels in publication order, 1 a month for 14 months. Every month I film a short introduction video for the next novel, which is exactly what this is. So this video won't contain any spoilers, but it will give you a short overview of the kind of novel that we're about to read, what you can expect, any recommendations that I have of audiobook versions, our film or TV adaptations, and finally, the bit everybody loves, the misery scale ranking. Now, of course, there might be versions that I don't know about in terms of adaptations, or there might be some opinions which people want to share. So please do share those in the comments and go and have a read of everyone else's comments as well. Let's talk about Far From the Madding Crowd, which is the book we will be reading in September. And I know many people have been looking forward to this. I think this is a book that a lot of people have already read. They might want to reread it, or they might actually be skipping this one. I think some people are skipping ones, but I know lots of people have been looking forward to this because I think it's also the book that you will probably hear most people kind of consistently say as their #1 book that everyone should start with. I don't think it's everyone's favourite Hardy, but a lot of people say that you should start with Far From the Madding Crowd. I don't necessarily think that it's the best book for everyone to start with, because I think it depends what kind of novel you're looking for. But generally, if I'm asked for a really quick answer and someone just wants to know which Hardy should I start with, I think Far From the Madding Crowd is a really great place to start. So if you haven't yet started reading any of the books in the Hardy Read-Along and you're considering jumping in, this is the one. I think this is the one that you should start with if you haven't yet. So let me just give you a really quick summary of the kind of novel that you are letting yourself in for with this. Far From the Madding Crowd was Hardy's 4th published novel. It was serialised first anonymously and then published as a novel in 1874. Now, the original novel was revised twice by Hardy, and I have mentioned this in other videos in terms of Hardy's revisions. He did quite a lot of revisions later on, not just from when they were serialised to published, but then kind of much later on after he swore off writing novels forever and was only writing poetry. Sort of at the turn of the 20th century, and then towards the 1920s he revised a lot of books. So you might find some differences between if you're listening to the audiobook and you're reading a physical version as well to go along with, maybe to get more grips with the language. I know a lot of people do that. You might find differences, and that's why, because he revised a lot of his novels. But as far as I know, all the revisions were done by Hardy himself, so they are all his own words. But that's just to point out that you might find a difference, and he did revise Far From the Madding Crowd twice. So once again, this story, something we are now becoming familiar with Hardy, I think. It is a love story. It's set against the backdrop of rural life in the southwest of England, and as well as love, this is also a story of betrayal. And it's also very much about the societal expectations that are placed on women and how their decisions are affected by what society expects them to do, and how things go wrong when they do what society is expecting them to do. Now, this is a huge theme in Hardy novels, and I think that Far From the Madding Crowd, it's not the first time he's explored this theme, but I think this is where he really nails it, and he really kind of really gets to grips with that particular theme. So we have quite a few characters, but I will name you 4 of the main characters, and they're really the important people that you need to know about. First, we have Gabriel Oak, who is a young farmer who is trying to establish himself and go up in the world. He's trying to make a success of himself. We then have a gentleman by the name of William Boldwood, a landowner, wealthy, much older than the much younger characters around him. And then we have Sergeant Frank Troy, a soldier, a man about town. The less said about him, the better. No spoilers. And then we have our main character, our heroine, Bathsheba Everdeen. Now, she's a woman who arrives in town to live with her aunt. She has wealth, she has brains, she's feisty, and they all love her. But does she love any of them? Well, you'll have to read it to find out, because I'm not going to give you any spoilers. And yes, in case you're wondering, Katniss Everdeen from the Hunger Games is named after Bathsheba Everdeen. My personal feelings on the novel is that Hardy has given us a story with much more plot and more characters and more nature writing than all of his other books combined. And he does so perfectly. Much better than all the other three novels, I think. He finally, I think, gets the balance right between all these different elements. He wants to make these societal comments. He wants to give you these great characters. He wants to give you a really, really wonderful woman, great female character. He wants to give you these men who aren't always great, and he wants to tell you about the kind of expectations that are placed on women and what happens to them when they do what you say, and that kind of effect that society has on women. And he wants to give you this great picture of the English landscape and of rural life, and he manages to do all that. You can tell that I actually really like it. It's not even my favourite Hardy novel, but I really like it, and I think now it's an incredibly popular novel. But I was really intrigued when I looked back at some contemporary reviews, which I'm trying to do as much as I can in these videos if they've got anything interesting to say. And I was really surprised, actually, that the reviewers, when the book was first released, didn't love the book as much as I thought they would, based on how popular it is now. Now, one review in the Athenaeum called Hardy an interesting and disappointing writer, which was mostly to do with his choice of language and the way that his characters phrase things. But the review said with some hope, maybe Mr. Hardy will one day write a decent novel, but not yet. And then the Spectator review called it very original and amusing, and said that everything in the book is fresh and almost everything in the book is striking. But actually the reviewer wasn't that impressed with the main characters. Didn't really like them at all. And finally, a lot of reviews that I read from the time compared Far from the Madding Crowd with George Eliot unfavourably. Now, I haven't actually read any George Eliot. I know. I aim to do something about that one day. But I would really love to know your thoughts. For those of you who have read a lot of George Eliot, how do you think that, not Hardy in general, but specifically Far from the Madding Crowd, the comparisons with George Eliot? And I think the reviewers were basically saying he's trying to be George Eliot and failing. Anyway, so let's move on and give you some audiobook recommendations. And I've got a couple of things I want to say about this. There are so many audiobooks of Far from the Madding Crowd. Now, my favourite one is narrated by Jamie Parker. I really, really like that. I've listened to it a couple of times. There is one out there, and this is the second thing I wanted to say about audiobooks. There is an audiobook out there narrated by Martin Shaw, and I listened to a little bit of it. And the narration is brilliant, as you'd expect, and it's a wonderful recording as well. It sounds really great. I couldn't find a version of this Martin Shaw audiobook that wasn't abridged, so I think it might just be an abridged version that he recorded. So beware, if you see one you think, oh, Martin Shaw, great, it's wonderful, but it is an abridged version, and you should read the whole thing, because it's great. On to adaptations, actually. There have been a lot of adaptations of Far from the Madding Crowd. Perhaps I think the most well-known is the 1976 film starring Julie Christie, Terence Stamp, Peter Finch, and Alan Bates. It is well worth watching if you can get hold of a copy of it. More recently, I think the one that a lot of people know from very recently is a really brilliant adaptation I really loved. It has a screenplay by David Nichols and stars Carey Mulligan and Michael Sheen. And it is really quite a faithful adaptation to the book. And I would obviously recommend that you read the book first, but those are two really, really wonderful adaptations. So I think finally, onto the last bit, which is the bit that everyone seems to love, and that is the misery scale. Now, the way that I've described this book in my very quick summary might make the book seem, I don't know, jolly and happy. But if you think about how many men there are and how feisty I said Bathsheba was, I think you might see where some of the misery might come from. So my ranking on the Hardy scale, I had to think really hard about this because I sometimes worry that I don't remember the full plots of books and therefore I'm missing some really big bit of misery. And I do deal quite well with misery in books. But I think I'm probably going to go somewhere actually in the middle with this. We'll make sure we've got places to go on either side for different novels. But I think that on the misery scale, Far From the Madding Crowd is a 2.5. It is not a total joy, but it's not without its moments of both misery and delight. So yeah, 2.5 on the misery scale for Far From the Madding Crowd. I would love to know your thoughts. If you've read the book before, if you know any great audiobooks or adaptations, let me know all of your thoughts in the comments below. If you are reading along with us in September, I would love to know that too. Please do let me know all of your thoughts in the comments below, and I will be back soon for another video. And until then, thank you so much for watching.